Empty room today.
Already started.
We need to wait for Brian. He's not here yet. I assume Brian's coming. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to start without our legal team.
Stop the recording.
Yeah, if we could. Here he is.
Still recording.
All right. All right. Well, we stopped and started, just waiting for Brian. Officially, whoever's listening, we're just waiting for Brian. And here he is, sharp dressed fellow.
Hi.
Where's all your papers at, sir?
Well.
You normally have a full arm of papers.
You shouldn't need them.
Good deal. All right. Everyone good?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting according to iPhone 12:02 p.m. on July 17th. All right. So MUD 39. I'm here. Jennifer's here and Kathy's here. So 3 out of 5. We do have a quorum. And we'll start by going to call to order and then review the consent agenda. So items 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Anything you'd like to remove before we approve the consent agenda? Okay. All right. If I can get a first on approving the consent agenda, and then I'll get a second. So either one of you can do a first or a second. Okay. All right. All right. So she's first. Okay. All right. So we have a first and a second to approve the consent agenda.
Sean, I think we skipped 3.
Oh.
I think it's a moot point, but we might want to just cover it.
I apologize. Sorry, it's my second time at this. So going back to number 3, consider an act upon request for adjustments to or relief from the specific charges imposed by the district. Any of those?
No, sir. Nothing for me.
All right. Thank you. I apologize about that. All right. So 3 is covered. Consent agenda was approved by Jennifer and Kathy. So that's 4 through 8. And then moving on to the regular agenda, number 9, receive the monthly SGRA Woodlands Division report, including updates on operations, projects, and public outreach. Pages 16 to 37.
We'll have a motion in a second, then all in favor, so technically you'll vote on the motion.
Oh, I apologize.
Little thing,
Okay.
but just
Thank you.
make sure we're proper.
Do you want, we can go back to,
So we got a motion and a second on the consent agenda. We just need to call the vote.
let's go ahead and call a vote to approve. Aye.
Hi.
Very good.
All right.
There
Thank
we
you.
go.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that.
Yep.
All right. So regular agenda number 9, SGRA report.
All right, so our report begins on page 16 in your packet. Nothing out of ordinary, no violations, everything's tracking as it normally would for this time of year. Some stuff's breaking, some stuff's not, but status of operations is normal. A couple things to point out on pages 20 and then projects starting on 21 forward. You'll see we do not have financials for this month or last month, just like we did last month. We only have up to the 30th.
Yeah.
Our new accounting software is still not reporting out just yet properly. So we can pay employees, pay vendors, accept payments. We just don't have the reporting taken care of yet. We wanted to make sure we can pay everybody who needs to be paid before we got the reporting taken care of. So I've been told next month we'll have the reporting taken care of and you'll see those reports next month.
Okay. So whenever the reporting comes in next month, we'll be able to then look at the previous months that were not shown.
Correct. So you've seen up to 30th. So I'm looking for May, June, and that point, July as well.
Okay. Excellent.
So when you go through the projects on page 21 forward, just keep in mind the invoice to date is as of April 30th as well. Some of those projects are done and do need to be closed, but we do not close them out and remove them from the report until you see the final invoice amount to check that versus budget. The last thing I had was we got through the hurricane well. There was no drop in service. There was no major equipment damage. Estimate at this point in time is maybe $40,000, maybe $50,000 worth of damage. Basically, the bulk of it is one canopy decided to fold up and move to somewhere else. Another one is a small electrical panel, $5,000-$10,000 decided to short out. So a couple minor things, but similar to what the conversations y'all have been having, We have 57 sites in the Woodlands with various wells, water plants, whatever they may be. Of those 57, 56 lost power. And basically by Wednesday morning, everything but 8 facilities had power. The last 3 remaining facilities came online Monday morning about 10 a.m. So now everything is energized. That's all I have unless you have any questions on anything.
I do have one question on that. I know one of the thoughts about some of the rebuilding and updating on the piping system is to move to gravity. If we move to gravity, having a lack of electricity would be potentially eliminated, right?
Correct. So of the 57 sites we have, one of the conveyance options that we're looking at is to remove 5 of those sites, 5 of the lift stations.
Okay.
So right now, of those lift stations, off the top of my head, there's 3 of them that do not have a backup generator.
Mhm.
And so what we have to do is we have a portable generator that the guys 24/7 run each of the lift stations and sites, pump it down and move on. So
Got it.
if those sites go away and it goes to gravity, taking the generators out there goes away as well.
Okay, all right. So right now there's a risk and we have to find fuel, which is kind of an unforeseen, or was potentially an unforeseen risk that we all were aware of. The con would be that certainly there's a cost, of course, but then there's a pro of not having that issue. So similar pro and con that many families face now of buying a generator, price versus convenience. So that's something we'll have to analyze. Excellent. I appreciate that. Anything else? All right. And then, Brian, we then do first and second and approve on every line item, correct?
No, item 9 doesn't have an action item. Item 10 is an action item, so we will need to consider motion second and action on that.
Okay. So for example, like 9 was a receive, this is a consider an act. So if it's a consider an act, we then have to act
Yes,
accordingly.
unless there's a decision to defer action, but you have the ability, like the obligation, to act if it has act on there.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. All right. So number 10, consider and act on the draft 2025 SGRA Woodlands Division budget.
So the budget has remained the same as presented in May. This has a 2% wholesale water rate decrease. Wastewater rate stays the same, and the GRP rate, which you do not vote on, has already been approved. That is a 7% reduction. So everything has stayed the same as presented before. If you want a copy, I have another copy if you would like one. It's also on a Google Drive and in your May packets as well.
Okay. So that 2025 is what we've seen, I believe, at least 2 months here. And then it's been presented to the trustee board. The trustee board has approved it. And then now we're doing specifically just our MUD 39 is, go ahead.
Yeah, so this will give authorization to your trustee on how to vote on the budget. Since this budget will be formally approved by the trustees, we have a process in place over the last several years for the MUDs to vote and give authority to their trustee on how to vote at the trustee level. So there's no confusion at the MUD level. Several years back, there was a instance where a trustee acted or voted in a way that wasn't in accordance with the wishes of the board, but we didn't have a process in place to actually have a motion and direction to the trustee. So that's where this process came from. And so we would consider a motion to authorize or direct the trustee to vote in favor of the authority budget for fiscal year 25.
Okay. Well, we've seen this in our MUD meeting a couple of times now. We've talked about it before. What are y'all's thoughts? Any questions? Okay. So with no questions, we can go ahead and act. Can I get a first to go ahead and direct our trustee to go ahead and vote at the trustees meeting based upon our opinion on our board?
I'll make a motion for that.
All right, can I get a motion? All right, and we'll then vote. Can I get a
That's a motion to approve.
a motion to approve? I apologize. Aye.
Aye.
All right, aye.
Very good.
Excellent. Thank you. All All right, and number 11, to receive the attorney's report.
Nothing to cover under the attorney's report today, and also the additional closed session that we talked about and visit with Eric. We're going to defer that until next month. So we'll have that second discussion next month.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just making a note. Okay, so number 12, receive and or act on the general manager's report.
Sure, thank you. Good afternoon. Wanted to give you a quick update on how WWA managed through the storm and some things that we did. And Chris mentioned some of the issues with the facilities, at least with power, but all the facilities were able to keep up and provide water, so that was good. Some of us were here on Monday morning, and once power went out, folks went back home. From then, we were able to communicate via text and email different things as Wi-Fi and power was available, sporadically depending on where you were. But we were able to still receive phone calls from customers and respond to them. We had field staff in the field working throughout the storm to address any customer issues. Most of the customer issues were a tree falls on a house, breaks the line in the attic, line needs to be shut off at the street type of thing, because to stop the water.
Yeah.
Or tree falls and pulls up the line, that type of thing. Need to turn the water off. So those were most of the calls. We went out right after the eye kind of hit on Monday, a couple of us to drive through and assess some of the drainage, hot spots and things, and everything held up pretty well. Obviously there was debris and damage from the tree stuff from the wind, but and then the rain was kind of sporadic as well. Some people got in upwards of 8 and some people got a lot less, just kind of depended on where you were at that point, but everything held up very well. There was a rumor floating around, I don't know where it came from, that there was a boil water notice. That was not true.
Yeah.
There never was. John and I were working on a public announcement that we put out, I think Wednesday morning. They went out to customers just confirming that the water was safe and uninterrupted. So to kind of ease any of those fears. And then that was posted out through several social media outlets as well. So I think we did pretty well through it. There's probably some things we can learn. This was for a Cat 1. It did a lot more damage than I think folks were thinking. And I also think that it, a few days prior, didn't look to be coming straight to us,
Yeah.
but it ended up that way very quickly, turned. So I think we've made through it. We're going to assess what we did internally and see if there's areas we can improve on, our systems and processes. But we were able to get through it pretty well, within the circumstances.
I had one thing I just wanted to maybe mention or confirm. I think in one of the previous meetings, maybe a ways back, I heard on the scope of a boil notice, we've only had maybe 1 or 2 of those in 50 years. One. Okay, so there's obviously been lots of hurricanes, lots of storms, winter storms, and through all that, we've weathered it.
Yeah, my understanding, it wasn't even related to any of that. It was I guess a funky water sample that was at a homeowner's. So we do sampling all over the community, and it was, I guess, a funky result.
Kind of a one-off.
Mhm.
Cool, excellent. So through all the mess, we're maintaining pretty well then. Good.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that it just happened on its own. I mean, Chris's crews were very active, getting portable generators to different facilities. Lift stations are a big tank basically with pumps in it, and you can let it fill up, and then you got to get power to it to empty it, and then you can kind of move on to the next one. You got to do that all day, and people aren't at work, they're at home. So the flows or the different curves that you usually see at a water plant or a treatment plant were different that day. Most likely, I bet it's totally off. Yeah, from your diagonal curves.
Stations you have to go to are entirely different from their home, so.
Yeah, so it was a team effort.
Appreciate y'all very much.
Thank you. Next month, we'll have quite a bit to cover. We'll have the budget and tax recommendations that we'll go through with the MUD. So we'll have quite a bit to go through next month. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Wanted to let everyone know that that Mike Mooney is going to be retiring, and this will likely be his last board meetings to attend. He's going to retire in August. So
Congrats.
yeah, we're
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
sad to see
Been a
him
good
go.
ride.
Yeah, he had his 20-year anniversary a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
So I've been with WDA for 20
A lot of good
years.
work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much
Thank you.
appreciated.
So we're actively looking for a replacement. And so I'm working on that right now, and hopefully we can get someone in soon. And
Cool.
Mike's agreed to kind of help get through that transition on side. So,
Good deal.
and last thing I had was to kick it to John for the comms.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
Everyone get their supplemental, didn't make it in your meeting.
I don't think I have
We
one.
missed something.
I don't have.
I apologize. I will forward that to you. It's not, it's pretty standard report, but I will email it to you. I do apologize. We got a few.
Was it this?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just want to touch on a couple things quickly within the report this month. So we did send out our water quality reports. That's about every year, July, beginning of July. They're mailed out, and then we push those out through other channels as well. Social media. They then live online throughout the year, so everybody can access it at any time. They're MUD specific. So hopefully you saw that. We really like to promote those, make sure folks are aware that we are monitoring water quality very closely, and that they have all the information they need about their water quality. And I gave you a little bit of research from AWWA there, noting that essentially the more we communicate with folks, the higher trust levels go up. So if folks aren't hearing from the utility, they're trusting their water quality waivers. And so it's important that they hear from us, not just about water quality, but all things.
Mhm.
And then on the right there, some survey findings from our last few community surveys that show that we do stack up quite favorably compared to national averages in satisfaction, or rather trust in that our tap water meets regulatory requirements. We're doing well on that front, certainly compared to national averages. And then wanted to highlight there on page 2 at the bottom there, we had a nice piece in the Woodlands Community Magazine on infrastructure renewal. So that is a township publication that goes to every household in the Woodlands. So that's important piece for us. That now goes out every 2 months. Used to go out monthly. They've changed it up. If you didn't see that, you can also find it online at the township website. Just search up Woodlands Community Magazine and check out that article. And that's basically it. So you have any questions, anything?
I would like to comment on page 2 at the top in the email section. 56% open rate and a 20% above industry average. I mean that's phenomenal. I mean we're not. We're a big municipality, but not a giant city. I mean, we're not Chicago or New York or Houston. I mean, so it's very impressive. So thank you for all the work you've done. I know we've been talking about this for several years and getting the communication out for all the changes that happen and all the updates. But I mean, to be over half the people actually open it is phenomenal. So thank you.
Just note that when we send out through our other emails, which is based off of our Water Smart registrations, that's usually more emergency related. That rate jumps even higher. We've got open rates, high 80s.
Really?
So people like hearing from us.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. So thank you. All right, so 13, receive the Woodlands Water Trustee Report. Keith isn't here. I think you pretty well covered what was probably in the meeting.
Yeah, I think the highlights were, the trustees voted to, authorize, Estre to utilize, a new entity and a new,
Like a third
engineering
party?
firm, a third-party engineering firm that's not involved in the treatment plant, process to look at, analyze four basic, options. One would be MBR on new land, right next to it. Conventional in the same spot, on new land. Replace in place, or replace where it sits, and then repair in place. Those four, each on a 50. I've asked them to look at the repair in place on the 25 and the 25, so we can get apples to apples. There was a request, to take the fourth option, pull it out, or get a fourth party to look at it from a different perspective. That fourth option. So that was not voted on. It may be in the future, but I don't know if that, where that will go. But,
Okay.
a couple other things that were talked about was this time, there's a lot of concern from folks that, we're gonna do all this study again, and it's been studied for years. We're studying it again. How are we gonna get to the conclusion, at some point, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
And so there was talk about building a decision matrix or decision criteria matrix that would identify some parameters on how the MUDs might go about making a decision, because you're going to essentially have four options. You're going to have four costs, pro cons, and if cost may be a driver, or it may be, other things, maintenance, that may be different things that help drive the decision on which direction to go, whatever that direction is. And so the idea was to build kind of a decision criteria matrix by November. This company that would come in before they really get rolling on these analysis, they would kind of develop a criteria matrix for the MUDs to look at and review while they're doing the analysis. So I think that was most of it.
What would be the approximate cost? Did they mention anything about that?
So this is already there is already budget for this within Estra's budget. This line item was about $500,000, and it was originally under what was called an owner's advisor. So the original plan, the time frame for the project was to be under construction, under design right now, and then once you go into construction, if you did CMAR, construction manager at risk, type of project delivery, you would need, it's required, my understanding is, to have an owner advisor to oversee the design and construction firm that's doing the project. So you have a third party that oversees that. They had been identified to be that group. They don't want to design the facility. They just wanted to be involved in that oversight. They're taking that line item in the budget and pivoting it towards this analysis, and they would do the analysis because they haven't been involved in the project. So,
Good deal. So approximately $500,000.
there's only $500,000 and or not to exceed, I think is the terminology. And then our understanding is it would take 8 months to receive the information, and then the districts would be able to review and digest it and ask questions, and then at some point, a couple months after that, come to some decision.
So 8 months from now, or 8 months from
I
a
think
certain?
It's gonna probably, the SRA board still, I think, has to approve this whole scenario, and so I think their board meeting is at the end of this month.
Is he in August?
In August.
So 8 months from August, and then,
September 1st, or the
Okay.
day after Labor Day is what we're assuming is kickoff, 8 months from that date forward.
okay. And then a couple months after that to have all these meetings for trustees, MUDs. So we're basically looking at where we are right now, a year from now.
Yeah, and
Essentially.
incidentally, it generally lines up with when the ACR on condition-based analysis is about to come out at that point as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it sounds like we'll be very busy for the next year and forever. Good. All right.
And forever.
All right. Well, always good to have more information. Glad that it's already in the line item. Don't love to spend $500,000, of course, but if it's already budgeted for, then at least it's already budgeted for. That's the glass half full perspective. So, any questions, Jennifer, Kathy? All right. So 14 is recess to closed session. Brian, you mentioned we don't need that, correct? All right, so we'll take off 14, reconvene. We didn't recess, so we don't need to reconvene. Discuss future agenda items and announcements. Discuss any matters for placement on future agendas. Anyone?
Eric mentioned we'll have the budget and tax rate recommendation for the months.
And the just to verify, the tax rate is the tax rate, the water tax rate from the MUD is what you're referring to.
Be our debt service and maintenance tax
Okay.
recommendation from the financial advisor. Financial advisor will be at the MUD meeting next month to give that recommendation for your 2024 tax rate.
Thank you. I
Yep.
appreciate that. There's a lot of rates. And if nothing more, we'll adjourn, and it is 12:28.